time for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. I am Gino Buccola alongside Aleza, Zepp. We've got producers Mike and Bobby helping us out today as we get ready, Aleza, for the opening night at Churchill Downs. Why this is exciting is because when Churchill Downs opens on Saturday night, it means we are only 1 week away from the Kentucky Derby, less than a week away from the Kentucky Oaks. We're going to have 3 different shows next week on SportsGrid covering all those races, the big races, the undercard. But Saturday night, there's a stakes race at Churchill Downs. It's called the Roxalana. It's the opening night feature race. And at the point that this race goes, Aleza, we're already going to know what the fields look like for the Oaks and the Derby. Those races are actually drawn in between races on Saturday night. The Derby race is drawn between races 5 and 6. So we're starting to feel Derby when we get to Saturday night and Churchill Downs is running.
You bet. I'm going to be there. You're not going to find me anywhere else. So it should be a really fun time. Yeah, it's really cool how they do that, how they integrate the draw for the big race into opening night. It's going to be a blast.
So Saturday night will be our focus for the first segment. We'll head on out and let's take a look at the field for the Roxalana Stakes. This one is going to go as race number 9, $200,000 up for grabs in here, 6 furlongs on the dirt. And Aleza, we'll start with the number 1, Non-Violence, who was a stakes winner last time out, but that was at a track that's a little bit lower level than Churchill Downs. It was over at Evangeline. They run in Louisiana, but still a good effort and a horse who you probably expect to be flashing some speed from the inside. You can see the style has listed as a tracker, so not necessarily a horse on the lead like the 2 Sandy Bottom, but still a horse who shouldn't be too far out of it. What'd you think about the 1?
I think the 1 could be a really strong contender in here. I mean, she's only ran at Churchill 1 time and won going away. And like you said, won that stakes race by 8 lengths, even though it was at maybe easier competition. But yeah, I think Non-Violence could be a player.
When you look back at the middle part of 2023, actually almost 2 years ago about this time right now, she has a nice win at Churchill Downs in a race going 6.5 furlongs, a race where she drew the rail. That looks a lot on paper like the race she's going to be in, that stakes race on Saturday night. So Non-Violence, you can see they have selected as the second pick with the Timeform US pace projector and the Timeform US finishing positions. We're looking at that projector right here. What do we do with the number 2 Sandy Bottom? She kind of looks like the fastest horse in the field on paper, Aleza.
Yeah, she does. She showed some brilliant speed, winning her first 3 starts, including a stakes. Then, though, they stepped her up to Grade 1 Company in La Brea in December, and she led the field but faded. But, she's fresh. She's working well after a 2-month break. So I think major speed threat in here. But I kind of want to comment on what you were saying about Non-Violence, how she's won at Churchill before. So it really is important for a horse to have experience over a track. And
Yep.
Churchill is a track with one of the longest stretch runs.
It's huge.
It's huge. And it's where a lot of times you see those horses who get out to the lead and they just cannot sustain that run over that super, super long stretch. So I think that could be a risk for Sandy Bottom in here.
And like a baseball field, right? Every dimension is different. Like baseball fields have similar type dimensions, but what happens at Yankee Stadium is way different than at Dodger Stadium just because of the size of it. It's similar with tracks. All the tracks are basically the same type of layout circumference, right? They're going the same distance, but because some of them have such huge stretch runs or small stretch runs that are more narrow, it really plays to certain types of horses. It'll be interesting to see a horse like Sandy Bottom out there on the front end. The 3 Lady Moscato just won for the last 10, Aleza, but was a stakes winner at Oaklawn Park in January. She hasn't really run all that well in her races at Churchill, though, kind of what you were pointing out.
Yeah, exactly. 0 for 5, I think, at Churchill. She's really consistent horse, though. She does well. Not always finding the winner's circle, but they had really high hopes for her. They spent $800,000 on this horse, and she just hasn't really lived up to those expectations. I think this is probably going to be a tough spot for her.
Moving on to the number 4, Tripolina. She's going to cut back to a shorter sprint distance. She's kind of interesting to me as like an underneath horse, Aleza, because you can tell, I think she fits with this group at the level. I'm not sure with her running style. She's been going like short and then long and then back and then forth. They haven't really stuck to one kind of particular big style of races for her. And I think that's been a little bit tough on her, but I could see her being a horse that's passing some of these late. What do we do with the 4?
I don't know. Like you said, they've tried a lot of different things, and her best performance on the dirt was her first attempt back in December. She came from off the pace and got second. And since then, she's just really struggled to have an impact. And I don't think there's been a whole lot of excuse for her. And she also needs some pace to close into. And I don't think she's going to get a whole lot of pace here. So I'm passing on Tripolina.
I like the 5 because you know me, I like to be styling. And Mutia here is a horse who comes in and she's actually getting some class relief. Even though this is a stakes race and she was in a stakes race last time out, you look at a few of the races where she just was kind of overmatched. She faced nice horses. One of them is named Nick Style, who is 7 for 8. And after beating Mutia, went on and won another graded stakes race. She lost to a horse named Emery, who is a multiple grade 1 placed filly. She lost to a horse named Hall and Ice, who's been in really good form for Safi Joseph Jr. I just think this is a great spot for her, Alexa.
I like Nisha. I think, my third, I put her in my third selection in here. Like you said, she's done really well in some really tough races. She was really well beaten in her last start in the Minaret Stakes in February. So I think she needs to kind of recapture that best form. But if she does, her figures absolutely fit here. And she has won coming off of a layoff before. So I think you could put her in as a value play in here because her morning line odds are 8-1 or plus 800.
Yeah, and remember, in racing, those odds will change a little bit all the way up to post time. For me, if she was like 5-1, like plus 500, anything there or above, I think that's great value on her. Anything in that range would be fine for me. Harbor Springs has won 2 in a row. And what was impressive about Harbor Springs' last race, Alexa, she showed that she has a little more early speed than she's been able to show in recent races. A lot of times that is a sign that a horse is improving and maturing and growing up. I could see her fitting really well with this group because she kind of has some versatility to her now. She could show different running styles.
Yeah, I sure hope so because it's my top selection in here. She's coming off a really strong win at Fairgrounds in February at today's distance. Won an allowance race here in November with a really strong speed figure. She has excellent recent workouts, including a bullet work, which a bullet work just means of all the horses that worked out that morning, hers was the fastest time. She's got the top jockey up. I think she just looks really primed and, not super long odds, 3-1 or plus 300 morning line, but I think still decent price on her.
A lot of positives coming in for Harbor Springs. Girls Weekend. I know you've been on a couple of those, Alexa. This one will step up a little bit, though, because what I'm not sure about with her 2 wins are on a track that was a sloppy track and then on a track that was supposed to be a turf race that was taken off. So I don't know if she kind of just took advantage in those fields.
Yeah, I don't love Girls Weekend, but I think the best approach for her is the pace scenario. Like she's going to
Yep.
want to be a part of the early pace, and there's not going to be a whole lot of early speed competition. So, I mean, if she can get really comfortable out on the lead, then that would be a reason to play her. I think maybe underneath, but I don't think she's going to win.
And then to the outside, we round out the field with Minx Palace. If you're playing her off the first 6 races in her career, she would be a major contender in here. She had 3 wins at Churchill. She had some really good speed ratings, the numbers that you're looking at. But then in her last 2 races, Alexa, she's just been nowhere since September of 2024. Which one's going to show up in this spot?
I like her. I'm using her underneath as my second pick. I think when a horse shows that they love a track, you have to respect that. And like you said, she's won at Churchill 3 times. She's only won 3 times. They've all been at Churchill. She's never ran off the board in her starts there. I mean, I like her. I think she's also getting Jackie Louis Saez again, who's ridden her to victory twice before. So I think this might just be the right track and just the right lineup for her to do well.
So as we get set for our first commercial break, let's flash those selections for the Roxolana. Alexa's going to throw the 6 on top, and I'm throwing Mutia on top. Good luck, whoever you're going to play. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we stick at Churchill for a Kentucky Derby look ahead. Don't go anywhere.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats, typically in your direction, if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, you get rid of Booker because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We know that first Saturday in May means Kentucky Derby. We are getting closer and closer, just about a week away. Fields will be confirmed on Saturday night. As of right now, about a week away, this is what the field looks like with our Derby Watch graphic. And these odds are put together, Alexa, by David Aragona, who's one of our colleagues. He's been on this show a couple times. He makes the morning line odds for all of the New York tracks, and he does a fantastic job in doing it. So he set what he thinks. Remember, this isn't David's opinion on who he's going to bet. This is what he thinks the betting odds will be. So he's setting the line, not his opinion necessarily on who he's going to be playing wagers on in this field. Let's kind of go through different groups of the horses in here, Alexa. I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit and maybe give the folks out there a couple horses that might be on our radar. So right now, it looks like Journalism will be a heavy favorite, kind of head and shoulders above the rest of the field. It's like him and then everybody else in that next tier. Do you feel that as of right now, Journalism is kind of head and shoulders above?
I mean, Journalism is tough. Like, I think Journalism showed us a lot in the Santa Anita Derby that he won. Just so much grit. He's won 4 out of 5 starts. I think Journalism is a valid favorite, but the Kentucky Derby, it's so hard to play a favorite because the field is so deep and so competitive.
In that top range, Luxor Cafe is one of the horses from out of the country. So a horse that we don't really have as much information on here in the U.S. Sovereignty, we know he was running at Gulfstream Park for U.S. connections. Tapan Street actually beat Sovereignty when they ran against each other in the Florida Derby. I'm not surprised to see, them right there. I actually wouldn't be shocked if Rodriguez ends up taking a little more money, Alexa, because that's a Bob Baffert trainee, and the Baffert runners tend to take a lot of money on Kentucky Derby Day because he's had so much success, and the fans that aren't the most hardcore betting fans, even if they're only playing a few bucks, they know Bob Baffert. They know that name.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give respect to him at the Derby. He knows how to win this race. But Luxor Cafe is really interesting. I want to preface this, I have not made my Derby selections yet. I am waiting to see how the field draws, to see how it shakes out on Saturday before I make
post positions, right?
Yeah,
where everybody is.
Get a total feel for the race, how it's going to set up, where those speed horses are going to be. If your favorite speed horse draws the one hole, you're not going to be super happy about that. But so the Japanese contingent gets stronger and stronger every year. I would say last year they probably had the probably winner. I mean, it didn't win, but Forever Young, ran into some trouble in the stretch and just lost by, what was it, a nose? But Luxor Cafe, really interesting, has 3 wins, 1 place. I'm excited about Luxor.
Of the next grouping of horses, Sandman, he won the Arkansas Derby. Burnham Square, he won the Bluegrass over at Keeneland. Cole Battle came out of the Oaklawn races where he was really impressive. He's kind of a rags to riches story. You have Grande, who was the second place finisher in the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. That next group of horses, are there any horses that are on your radar that might be in the mix for you? Anyone you want to mention or talk a little bit about?
Sandman, I've talked about him on this show before. I really like Sandman. I have liked him ever since the Southwest, where he basically almost went to his knees at the break, and it was scary to watch. You're like, is the horse okay? And he was more than okay. He came back. He closed from dead last to get second place. And since then, ran decently in the Rebel and then won the Arkansas Derby. So I think Sandman is a major player in here. I'm hoping that they'll be able to keep him a little bit closer up, which they did in the last race, because in the Derby, not that a closer can't win the Derby by any means, but when you have 19 horses in front of you or 15 horses in front of you,
bumping around,
so much dirt in your face, so much traffic, it becomes difficult. And the Derby's really interesting, right? Because these are herd animals, and you often don't really get to see herd dynamics play in a race, because 1, either the race isn't long enough for those to really develop, or 2, there's just not enough horses in the race. But the Kentucky Derby is totally different. So you really do get to see all those dynamics play out. And like we show you often on the Timeform US with a pace projector on, what horses pair up, the closers, the early pace. So that's something that you really see develop in the Kentucky Derby. So I think Sandman's very interesting if he can get a little, not forwardly placed, but just not so far back.
So far, of the horses that we've mentioned, Tapan Street is one that'll be in the mix for me. And then of this next grouping, Grande, keep an eye on his last race. He had to go really, really wide in the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. I think there's some room to build off of that effort. Citizen Bull was last year's 2-year-old champ. East Avenue was another one who was really good last year, Alexa. Both of those horses are fast early. Then you have Publisher, who's a maiden. He still hasn't won a race, but he actually qualified for the Kentucky Derby. Tistastic was a horse who went over to the fairgrounds. He won the Louisiana Derby. Any quick thoughts of the horses in that next group?
I mean, Citizen Bull's interesting, right? He had so much success as a 2-year-old, and still, as a 3-year-old winning the Robert B. Lewis Stakes, but then just kind of disappointed, not kind of like majorly disappointed in the Santa Anita Derby. So it's interesting because, again, a Baffert horse, so will he take that money or not? I'm probably going to get off of Citizen Bull for this race. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm kind of cold. He's won races where he was able to get the lead in smaller fields, and he was able to control everything. I just don't think that's going to happen in a race like the Kentucky Derby with a few others that have speed. And we talked about the traffic. Like, if something goes amiss for him early on and he's not right on the lead, I just don't like his chances. So I'm going to be against him there. Next group, we have Tistastic, Admire Daytona, American Promise. Chunk of Gold is kind of an interesting long shot, a horse that they did not pay a bunch for, and he's run really well in his 2 races on the dirt. And then towards the bottom of the group, Flying Mohawk, Owen Almighty, Built. Mention 1 or 2 of those, Alexa.
Well, we just hear that Built is not going to be in the Derby, right?
Yep, yeah. So they've just announced the news that he's going to run in a different race earlier on Kentucky Derby Day.
Yeah, so that means Neo Equos for Safi Joseph is now in the field. And for those rooting for Baeza, who, whose mama was the mama of the Kentucky Derby winner 2 years ago, and then also sired a horse was the mare to a horse who ran last year, only needs 2 more scratches to get in the field.
So we will update you on all that news next week on our 3 different Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby preview shows. But don't go anywhere. We still have some more betting on this show. We'll get to Santa Anita for the Royal Heroine when we return.
knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Hasn't been a ton of indication that Cleveland is even looking at anybody outside of Travis Hunter. The Giants, yes, have worked out Shador Sanders.
I do think there's going to be at least 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round. Not because they deserve to be first round, have a first round grade on them per se, but the fact that you get the extra year of control, somebody's going to slide into one of those 30, 31, or 32 slots and grab a quarterback.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats typically in your direction if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid. This is Greg. He bet a long snapper would go in the second round.
The long snapper from Florida is still waiting for his name to be called.
Now this is EJ. EJ tuned into SportsGrid's draft coverage. He checked the app, tracked the markets, followed the pros. He didn't guess. He knew. The EJ SportsGrid draft coverage starts Thursday at 7:30 p.m. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
For our final segment this week, we head out west coast, best coast, to Santa Anita for race number 7 on Saturday. It's the Grade 3 Royal Heroine. Alexa, we got to get moving because this is a big field. We're going to have to book it to get through this field and give a thought on everyone. We start out with the one Public Assembly, who comes off of a nice win last time out. This horse has won 2 of the last 3. That was actually the first start coming to Southern California. And for Phil D'Amato, do you give this horse a shot in here?
Yeah, I mean, talented, taking a bit of a step up in class, and the distance is a little bit of a question because she's never gone this short of distance before. I think she would need another move forward, but can definitely do so. Is really talented filly that's improving.
The next horse, number 2, has some serious ability, Alexa. This horse has raced 3 times, one of them in Ireland to start the career, and then 2 races in the U.S. Each of her races, too, has been followed by a layoff. She has won in different ways. She has been incredibly impressive visually. And it's a small thing where the naming of the horse, like Raw Ability, if I was going to name a horse Raw Ability, I would wait for a horse that I thought was really good and had some raw ability. Yeah. I think that's the case with this one. What do you think about the number 2 in here?
I love her. She's versatile. She's got good running style. She's able to close from the back of the pack. This is a class test, but clearly talented. I made her my top selection before I realized my friend owns this horse. So now I'm really rooting her on. So, I mean, the favorite in here is going to be tough. We'll get to that. But I do really like Raw Ability quite a bit.
Sneaker is the next one. She's a California bred. She's an honest horse, but a lot of her races have been facing like company that's not quite this good.
Exactly what I had to say. Reliable, but is going to find this class level probably too much for the win.
The number 4, Uncorked, actually won this race last year. She's just not quite in the best form compared to last year. She just seemed like she was doing a little bit better. She's a horse who's going to come from the back of the pack, though. She'll kind of drop back. You see her in the early pace projection as the number 4, so she'll be running late on the scene. What do you think about this closer's chances in here?
I like her more than you do, Gino. I mean, she has finished behind the number 6, Tirapati, who's the favorite in here in her last 2 starts. But I think she looks pretty close to just as good as she's been last year. So I think she's a major player. There'll be a fast pace in here. She's that mid-pack closer, so should get a pace setup that she likes. If you look at the time from US pace projector on the screen, it does have her winning.
The number 5, Vengaza, has been running in really good form right now, but her races have been going shorter. Now she's going to go a little bit longer, so I kind of have to wait and see a little bit with her.
I agree because she's 0 for 2 for going long distance.
The number 6 Tirapati is a really cool horse, especially for someone like you as an owner, Alexa, because this horse won for only 35,000 to break her maiden, and then she was available to be claimed for only 25,000, and now she's up winning graded stakes races. The connections have done a fantastic job with her.
Yeah, I mean, she's one of the top local turf milers probably out there on the West Coast. So there's no shade to be thrown at her. She's really good. She's versatile. She's won from the lead. She's won from coming 8 lengths off the leader before. So she's also got a blazing work. So she's ready. She'll be the one to beat.
The next couple we have, Son of Hill, the 7 and the 8, Mucho Macho Girl. They're both 20-1 on the morning line, bigger prices. I had a tough time making a case for either one of them. Could you build a case for either of these long shots?
No, I'm passing on both of them.
So the 7, Son of Hill, the 8, we couldn't really get to. What about the 9, Eternal Reign? This one I thought was a little bit interesting because her races recently, she was a winner, she was second, and then second again. In the 2 races she lost when she was second, she was only behind horses who went gate to wire. They basically won on the lead all the way around. Do you think she fits with this group?
Yeah, I have her as my 4th selection in here.
Yeah.
You know, she finished ahead of Tirapati on February 22nd. So she has beat her before. She's got a bullet work this week. She's looking fit and ready. I think that she's a capable long shot.
The 10 and the 11, the next two, both of these horses will probably try to be forwardly placed. I think they want to be close and in the race early on. I thought Hamwood Flyer, of the two of them, was more of like the wild card who has some older races against really good company. Any thoughts on those two?
I struggled to leave out Hamwood Flyer in my top selections. I didn't. It was my 5th pick. But she's good. She's got fast works, and she's running for the first time for her new trainer, Peter Yurton, and he wins 35% of the time when horses debut for him. So I think if you like Hamwood Flyer, absolutely play her at 10-1.
I couldn't get to the outside two, and as we do get to those, we can pull up our selections for this race, Alexa, because I wasn't able to get with those outside two, but you and I both like raw ability in here.
Yeah, we do. Like her a lot. I think she'll give that tough favorite a run for her money.
And we like you a lot, and we're going to see a lot of you next week. 3 different shows for Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby Day previews. We'll see you next week on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Their head coach has experience making deep playoff runs in Amy Udoka, and they have a point guard in Fred VanVleet that's 1A type. So they're not completely foreign to all of this. If you're leaning either way, pick the over 5.5 games, or for a little bit more money, plus 1.5 games for the Houston Rockets. It will go at least 6.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Pharrell.